This is Docs Outside the Box, episode 7.
Welcome to Docs Outside the Box podcast. This is your official show, looking inside the minds of cutting-edge and innovative doctors. Think you'll find these stories in any medical textbook? Sorry, you're getting real life insight from men and women pushing the envelope beyond medicine. Ordinary doctors doing extraordinary things. Let's start now with your host, Dr. Nee Darko.
Welcome back to another episode of Docs Outside the Box. I am your host, Dr. Nee Darko. And by the time you hear this episode, 4th of July would have already come and gone. Here in the Darko household, we went down to New Jersey and spent some time with the family. We had barbecue. We did all the things that families normally do during the 4th of July weekend. So I'm really grateful for that. But other things that you will hear about also during this time is Kevin Durant just signed with the Golden State Warriors, which I'm completely shocked about. And I know this is a medical career type podcast, but anybody who's in my inner circle knows I am a basketball junkie, diehard Knicks fan. So I'm completely shocked about Kevin Durant signing with the Golden State Warriors. But also at the same time, I got to give props to the Cleveland Cavaliers for winning a championship, to LeBron James and the Cavaliers. As you all know, there's some castaways from the New York Knicks on the team, on the Cleveland Cavaliers, that is. That's Timothy Mozgov, J.R. Smith, who went to my high school, as well as Tristan Thompson, who went to my high school. So congratulations on an epic championship run, an epic Game 7. But just want to let you Cleveland Cavaliers fans know that the New York Knicks are coming. We got D Rose. Just be careful. And you know, Russell Westbrook is out there. Watch your back. So, but obviously the show is not about basketball. It's not about sports. The show is about docs who are living outside the box. So let's bring it all back. I want to talk about this episode where I get a chance to talk with Dr. Julien Pham, who's the chief medical officer as well as founder of RubiconMD. Dr. Julien has merged his experience as a nephrologist with his passion to innovate. He truly is living outside the box. And what I mean by that is he has a keen eye of e-health, EMR systems, just the role that technology plays in healthcare and the possibilities that can occur because of that. And with that, he's created RubiconMD, which is a technology platform that connects primary care physicians to specialists, all the while reducing unnecessary visits, unnecessary referrals, unnecessary duplicate tests. So, for example, let's say you go in to see your physician. Let's say you go in because you've had this chronic back pain. You know in the back of your head that he's probably going to refer you to a specialist. But anyhow, you go, you see him, you let him know what's going on. He may want to run some tests, but also at the same time, he's going to eventually send you to a specialist. So rather than run the same test and then a couple of weeks later send you to go see a specialist who's going to run the same test again, or even the same x-rays, what he can do, or what RubiconMD allows the primary physician to do, is connect with a subspecialist real time, send all of the information, including chief complaint, to the specialist, and he's able to get back to the primary care doctor literally in real time, which helps reduce time, helps reduce unnecessary referrals. You know the deal. So for me, I think this is amazing, not just for what RubiconMD can do between primary care physicians and subspecialists, but I'm really excited about something like this being taken over to third world countries where subspecialty, care is very rare. So in this episode, some things that I want you to pick up on are the steps that he took to transition from being a Harvard academic appointment nephrologist to being a founder of 2 startup companies. How important is it to be around like-minded physicians? The entire episode, I threw him some softballs. So I threw a fastball to swing at, and this one is going to be hard. So I'm going to ask him, what is it that he finds most rewarding? Being a chief medical officer of his own startup, being a nephrologist, or doing volunteer work in Vietnam. Also, you're going to learn what's his advice for docs like you and I who want to live outside the box. And he even shares his rituals, his techniques behind meditation that I think we all can learn from. And obviously, we're going to learn why he's not just a doc. So look, without further ado, let's get on with the episode. Okay, Dr. Pham, welcome to Docs Outside the Box. I am extremely excited to have you on the show. Before we get started on the show, can you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I am a nephrologist. I have done what many have done in the past, which is essentially live almost a full life in academia. Spent many years in training as a medical student, as a resident, as a chief resident, then as a fellow in nephrology. Ended up in Boston, where I eventually joined the faculty at Harvard Medical School. And over the past 5 years, got really interested in the world of startups, and have since left academia in order to immerse myself and build a company. So I am now the Chief Medical Officer and founder of RubiconMD. I've started a few other projects / companies in the past as well. And I'm excited to be on this podcast.
Excited to have you on. Now, how long, you said that you've left academia. How long has it been since you left practicing medicine? I
left in June 2014. I did not completely leave the practice of medicine. I think it's something that's too important to me. So I continue to moonlight 1 weekend a month and a couple evenings a month in community health centers and I cover for private practice. So I keep that at a minimum and focus the rest of my time and attention to the startup.
Moonlighting, also, as I like to call it, the 1099 life.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, listen, on your page, you have your own about me type page, but it's your own page that describes everything about you. But on there, it states you are only as important as the impact you have on others. Can you explain that further to us? What does that mean to you?
Yes. It's funny. A lot of people ask me about this and ask me where it came from, but I try to look it up and I haven't found anybody who said that. So technically,
trademark it.
Technically, I've coined it. So yes,
yeah, trademark it.
So what it means really is that I've really been inspired by a lot of phenomenal people through my life, and I feel like I have been very blessed through my education and training and mentorship, and realize that there's a lot that I can offer the world. And this is really what this sentence means to me, is that I am really doing things so I can have a greater impact on others. It's something that I live by. Absolutely.
Now, the question before this last one that you answered, you said that you stepped away full-time from medicine in around 2014. Most people who do take a step away from medicine and enter into the moonlighting life, or, they go and become an entrepreneur, most of them don't really step into becoming a CEO or a founder of a big startup. Take us through the process. We want to be a fly on the wall of how you literally went from, doing dialysis and taking care of renal failure patients to now you're the CEO of a startup.
Yeah. So technically, I'm a chief medical officer. I am the founder of RubiconMD, but I'm one of the 3 founders, but I'm the chief medical officer. Unfortunately, there wasn't a roadmap for me to do this. And as any entrepreneur would tell you, they make things work for them. So that's what I did. I was a fellow, did translational research, was applying for grants, was doing pretty well, had some really interesting projects that were moving forward. But I stumbled upon the concept of hackathons around 2010 or so. This was somewhat of a new thing, at least in the Boston area. And this was, in fact, MIT's second ever hacking medicine event. And so I was very inspired by the people that I saw there and by the culture.
Can you explain what that is, a hackathon?
Yeah, hackathons are events where they bring people together around various themes. In this particular hackathon. It's hacking medicine, so obviously around healthcare. And so they bring physicians, researchers, designers, business people, engineers, put them in a room and organically try to either connect them with each other or have them connect with each other and form teams. And people will go around and pitch their ideas. And over time, organically, teams will form. And over the course of, say, 48 hours or 72 hours, they will try to build something and they will try to pitch it at the end of the hackathon. And sometimes you win something, sometimes it's just street cred. But it's a really fun event when you put builders together. And so I was maybe one of 3 physicians that day, surprisingly. And I remember this was 6-7 years ago, but I really fell in love with the culture and the process, and thought to myself, there's got to be a way to build. To bring this process into the hospital system, where I see a lot of my colleagues come up with really good ideas, but not having resources or access to the right folks to build things in an innovative way. And so I did just that. I went to my division chief and said, it's I'm trying to carve a path for myself as a faculty. I'm known for XYZ in the field of nephrology, but I'm also really passionate about innovation, and I think that's the future of medicine. We have to innovate in the same way that we do research. It's not too different from doing basic science research or translational research. I look at what you call e-health or digital health as just another form of research using technology. So my division chief said, sure, go ahead. He gave me a little bit of space. And then I kind of hustled my way. I sent out a RFP, informal, and recruited 3 engineers. They just happened to be from France, and they came to the U.S. to Boston for a short period of time, 4 months, and we built this hack team. We called it Reno. Rapid Health Innovation. And the whole idea was to build prototypes, to take ideas from people who wanted to pitch us something, help generate somewhat of a minimal viable product or prototype, help them with the context of healthcare and somewhat of a business plan. And then let them go to the next phase, which would be to pitch that to a startup accelerator or to a startup competition, try to garner more interest, get their own traction, and go onward to build a startup. So we looked at ourselves as a support or a booster for these ideas at a very, very early stage. And so based on that, I became very interested in innovation in general, and how do you get something from just an idea to a true business. And I realized that what I lacked was knowledge of business. And when I met my co-founders, Gil and Carlos, it was actually at a hackathon. Also at MIT, Gil was pitching somewhat of a similar idea. I was mentoring at the hackathon, just walking around from tables to tables. I didn't particularly like the idea that he was pitching at the time, but I really liked the group. And then Gil called me a few days later, also called Carlos. We started talking, and I thought it was worth it. I really liked them. I thought they were smart. But more importantly, I think coming in as a physician, for me, what appealed to me is that there was a great opportunity to learn from people who think from a business mindset.
It has to be a whole complete different train of thought.
It is completely different. This is something, and over the journey, over the past 3-4 years that RubiconMD has existed, it's been an incredible learning experience for me to see and to observe and to connect with people who look at things slightly differently than how we're trained as clinicians. And so at the time, we decided to build this team. It was just the three of us. We just had an idea. It wasn't even what RubiconMD is today. We participated in another hackathon. I told my division chief that I wanted to somewhat tweak my hours, and luckily he was very very open about that. And so what I ended up doing was,
you've got an amazing section for division chief. I mean, he's completely open to all these different things.
Yeah, he was. So what I told him was that I wanted to spend less time at the Brigham and Women's Hospital, and I was going to compensate that with a part-time position at this private practice, and that helped me bring in a little bit extra salary, because in academia they don't pay you as much. So he was okay with that. You will see once you get to that stage, especially when you are in a big academic system. There's actually you have to survive by grants. There's very little clinical workload to justify a salary, and so by minimizing my already low clinical workload and maximizing my private practice clinical workload, I was able to bring in a higher salary over time. And I did this for about 6 to 9 months or so. Built up a little bit of cash on top of what I had saved in the past, and this allowed me to make more of a complete leap into RubiconMD once it was ready. And it took a while for RubiconMD to get off the ground as well.
Well, just before we get too much into I think that's really fascinating. What is RubiconMD? Can you tell the audience, describe the company to us, please?
Yeah, so RubiconMD is what's called an e-consult platform, or an electronic consult platform. It's a platform, a technology that helps primary care providers, nurse practitioners, PAs, essentially people who are in a setting where they are providing care either to the indigent or to a safety net institution or to patients in the community, and may not have full access to a large and deep network of specialists. So what we wanted to build was a technology that would replace the informal curbside consult. And the idea was that a provider could go on the platform, upload any images or data, only the things that are relevant, and then select a specialty. And what RubiconMD does on the back end is to route this to our network of specialists located all over the country. And the specialists would respond within a few hours and get paid a small honorarium for their time.
Wow. Okay. So this is all real time. And how quickly would you be able to get an answer? For example, a primary care doctor has a patient who comes in and he's not sure if he needs to send to a specialist. So he uploads the information to RubiconMD and would get an answer back in a couple hours.
Exactly. So it's an asynchronous model. The reality, and this is somewhat counterintuitive to people who don't practice medicine, but the reality is that medicine is very asynchronous, right? If you put yourself as a patient and you go see your own PCP, you'll see them, they'll examine you, they're probably thinking about whatever finding they saw, and then they'll send you home and draw some labs. And the labs don't come back until several hours later anyways, and you're long gone by then. And that's when a lot of times primary care providers struggle. Something came back and looks a little bit unusual, and it didn't fit the physical exam that they found. I don't want to say rarely, because it does happen sometimes, but the majority of the time, RubiconMD is most efficacious or effective in those types of situations where you have something ambiguous, or you're hesitating between two pathways of care, and you just want to get a little bit of reassurance from a specialist, or you want to get a specialist to help you with some guidance on how they would how to best proceed next for the management of that patient. Sometimes, though, you are just in a setting where you don't have access to a specialist, like in a rural area where you need to have access to a hand surgeon. And so all of a sudden, through RubiconMD, you can actually all you need to do to get an X-ray and upload it, and the hand surgeon will respond to you within a few hours.
That's really impressive. I could really see it. I really envision it with rural communities or even overseas in third world countries where obviously primary care physicians predominate and specialists are extremely low in population. So, Now, this company with Reno as well as with RubiconMD, did you have any thoughts of creating something like this while you were in medical school or even before, or did this all come about
No,
afterwards?
No, not at all. I didn't even realize that I have an entrepreneurial fiber in me until a few years ago. I went through medical school completely, naive to what was out there, what were the opportunities as a physician in my mind.
Saving a patient, saving the world one patient at a time.
Exactly, right? That's what a lot of us go into medicine for. And then I got turned on by science and also technology. And so a lot of my research was around translational research, the use of lasers, vascular biology. And so that was interesting. But when things became challenging as I was progressing in my career, and when I had to decide what track I was going to go, whether I was staying in academia or which is a very challenging environment, or whether I was going to practice pure medicine or clinical medicine, that's when I took a deep look at the things that really motivated me, and I realized that everything I had done until then had been very entrepreneurial in nature. I'm always very interested in being the first to build something, to do something that's slightly unique or different from what the others are doing. I've never been interested in taking a database and looking at it at a different angle. For me, it's always been about let's come up with a completely random hypothesis, something that makes sense, obviously, and just let's explore that further and see whether we can find a signal from the noise. And I really, that's why I went into the entrepreneurial journey that I did, is because I think because I was attracted to the idea that very few people had done that at that time, at least around me. It turns out that now I've met a lot of physician entrepreneurs who've been very successful over the past many decades, but they're kind of in hiding.
That's what I was going to ask you. I was like, how did you find these people? Because it seems like they're few and far between, or is it mainly because you're in a large academic arena or area that you're finding them? Yeah,
no, I struggled. I didn't have any mentorship, really. And this was 5-6 years ago in Boston, where there is a lot of innovation happening. I just felt that the typical archetypes where people who are in academia and, they may sometimes be consultants or work with other companies out there, but really no one who was really kind of a raw founder, like an entrepreneur, someone who would just take an idea and just kind of go out there, hustle and build it from scratch. I met very few people like that. It turns out there are tons of them on the West Coast, around in the Silicon Valley. Yeah. There are a lot of physicians out there who are involved in technology. What you do see a lot, though, are physicians who are advisors or investors in early stage companies. But with the explosion of technology and social networks and social media over the past decade or so, you're seeing more and more physicians who are interested in taking that path.
Now, what about the other side? Did you have detractors, maybe people within your own department, friends, other physicians who just couldn't see basically the proof of concept, who were detracting towards your idea?
Yeah, you'll always find those people. I tend to associate myself with people who are positive, both in my personal and professional life anyway. So maybe there are more of the detractors out there, but I tend not to to be around that negativity anyways. I've noticed a lot, and this is one of the reasons why I left academia, is because starting a few years ago, there was definitely a strong push from the leadership in many of the academic institutions and almost nationally for innovation. That was kind of the buzzword of the day. They wanted to see more physicians being innovators and entrepreneurs even. But somehow innovation dies off in middle management. It's just, you get,
tell me about it.
You get the leadership, encouraging you and encouraging that notion, but then you get very few resources and clearly no budget. And the other thing that really challenges the pursuit of entrepreneurship is the fact that we still have somewhat rudimentary conflict of interest policies that are not really encouraging participation in the startup ecosystem. In other words, if you're an academic, then you are, and this is extreme, but with some gradients in there. But if you're an academic, then you're not allowed to be like an entrepreneur. You're not allowed to associate yourself to a company out there. And this has stemmed from, I think, the friction that's existed for many years between the influence of pharma and how, at least I should say, how pharma influences decision making for physicians. But I feel that with digital health, it's slightly different, though. You're building tools rather than being influenced by technology. So I'm starting to notice organizations and institutions that are changing or tweaking their policies somewhat to allow for physicians to have a little bit more leeway to be entrepreneurs.
Now, take us through a typical day for you. What's it like waking up as Julien Pham? How do you you go? Are you going into an office? Are you working from home? Take us through a typical day for you.
So some days I work from home. I actually find myself to be very efficient at home. I have a corner office and that helps. But typical days, I tend to wake up very early, sometimes 5:30, 6 a.m. It's just a clinical habit, I suppose. And then I go through what's happening in the news. I have certain media sources that I like to check. I also check my email, make sure that there are no major issues with the company at RubiconMD. Because I'm the chief medical officer, my main responsibilities are, one, to build and grow the network of specialists. So I've built a virtual hospital across the country. We now have 150 specialists across 100 plus specialties and subspecialties, and they're all what you call 1099. So they're all kind of part of the gig, part of the gig economy, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're a phenomenal group. It's a very unique network, and it's probably the I would say if I were to leave a legacy, that would be it. Is this network? I really feel it's one of the strongest network of specialists out there.
I mean, I'm on your website and I'm looking at, it's a pretty comprehensive list of specialties. From allergy and immunology to nutrition, to general surgery, to surgical oncology, psychiatry, rheumatology. You're covering the entire gamut of medicine, basically.
Right. And I did this with a lot of purpose. I essentially told myself, what would it take to replicate access for an area that does not have access? Like, what would I want to see in a virtual hospital, essentially? And so I've deliberately built this with a lot of depth, but also a lot of breadth and a lot of duplication of specialties, so that we can get not only high quality responses from well-trained clinicians, but also have enough duplication in specialties and subspecialties in order to cover everything.
Do you have a start time in mind? Does the company plan to start pretty soon, or?
What do you mean for?
Like actually start taking referrals and from primary care physicians, or are you already doing it already?
Oh yeah, we've been doing this for 3 years. We've done about 5,000 cases now. We are in 26 or 27 states, working with small clinics, groups of clinics that are either in the same geography or across a part of organizations that are across multiple states. We are with the correctional healthcare space, so working with Department of Corrections and prisons. We're working with safety net organizations, and we're working with health plans.
Wow. Now, why do you think more physicians aren't doing things like this? Because I know you say you found a network of physicians who think like you, who are very like-minded. But, I can tell you from my experience, and it's all anecdotal, and majority of physicians don't think like you. Why do you think physicians in general don't think this way? Do you think we're trained not to think this way, or do you think it's something more granular?
I would challenge that notion, actually. I would say that a lot more physicians think like we do. It's just that part of our training suppresses that, and therefore you act a certain way. But I have conversations. One of my favorite things to do throughout the week is to have regular rendezvous or little coffee meetings with physician innovators or founders or people in medicine who are creative. And I think there's so much creativity in our field, at least in our workforce. But there are very few outlets. So think about it. Even when you do research, you have to be very creative to be able to come up with different hypotheses or different ways to do an experiment or to spin something. And it's not just rationale. And so I think that I think there's a new breed of physicians out there, not necessarily younger physicians. I've seen people who are older than me and much older than me even, who are very, very creative and very entrepreneurial, but just don't have outlets to or resources to do what needs to be done.
Now, what's your advice for pre-med students, med students, or even just doctors who are out there who they're listening to this and they're getting inspired by what you're saying, but don't know how to start? What can you impart on them?
Yeah, find mentors.
It's real important.
Attach yourself to people who are actually doing things. I think medical students are in medical school because they're very smart and very accomplished and are able to get things done. My manifesto really over the past few years has been to share with people, to show people that there are a lot of parallels between medical training and entrepreneurial training. In the first year of your startup, you are kind of running around with your head on fire, just in the same way as an intern, really, and really not knowing what's happening, but just doing the right thing to get on to the next day and making sure that nobody dies in the ICU. Right. And so as an entrepreneur, it's a little bit like that as well. In the beginning, you're not really sure what your product is. You kind of have an idea of what your market is. You've been able to sell to 1-2 customers, but you lose sleep every day because you want them to renew the contract, and therefore you need to be able to do a really good job to make sure that you don't kill the contract. So there are a lot of parallels in the way we think about the practice of medicine, and also the practice of entrepreneurship. And as you progress, I feel in entrepreneurship, and again, I'm at an early stage. I mean, it's not like I'm a seasoned entrepreneur or anything like that, but I'm just making observations. And I see so many parallels. After a while, you're starting to build your network. You feel more confident and comfortable with your knowledge and your ability to be a leader. And to make important decisions. And it's the same for medicine, and it's the same for entrepreneurship. And eventually you get to a point where you're the attending, or maybe a thought leader in that space, and you're you're seeing trends, and you're directing people to the right things, and you don't have to think twice about something because you've seen it before or you've done it before. So I would encourage medical students to not be afraid of entrepreneurship. There's always this concern about making the leap, and I think it's very, very important that you don't, jeopardize your training. And so I tell students that they need to finish some kind of clinical training. They don't have to go very, very far if what they're more passionate about is the world of startups or entrepreneurship. But they need to have some kind of clinical training, because it doesn't just give you credibility in the eyes of your peers, but it really changes your life. It changes the way you approach certain situations, and it teaches you empathy as well, which is extremely important when you are building a business and caring for customers. So finish your training, find a mentor, and don't be afraid of entrepreneurship as something completely different. It's really the same process. It's just in a different way. So if you succeed as a medical student, then there are strong chances that you will succeed at least as an early stage entrepreneur.
I never looked at it that way. I think I appreciate, and I think the audience is going to appreciate you drawing the parallels between medical school training, which obviously is very familiar to us, as well as, comparing that to starting a startup, basically. And with that being said, I want to ask you this question. I want you to be honest. It seems like now you're 3 years into this, you're catching your stride. If you had the opportunity to go back and just practice full time, would you do it? Could you do it?
Could I do it? Yes. Would I do it? No. Okay. I think I've realized that what drives me in life is meaning. I want a life where I can have impact, and I can do that, being a really good physician or creating impact in a different way. But I also really value autonomy, and I value my freedom. And it's something that is very rare to have when you're practicing medicine 100%.
I know how you feel.
Yeah.
I know how you feel. Yeah.
And even now with RubiconMD, as we're bringing in investors and the company is getting bigger, I'm getting, slightly less excited about it, because I think I'm more of an early stage kind of guy. I usually make the metaphor of the rocket launch pad. I'm the rocket in the bottom. I like the idea of lifting the whole thing up and then just come off and let the rocket continue on. And I think that's the kind of person that I am. And I'm also very much into deep relationships. And so it's important for me to be able to connect with a broader network, and not just with a network of clinicians. And so this is something that I think I will continue doing for as long as I can. And I would be satisfied if I spent, let's say, 1.5 day a week in clinic or something like that, or continue to moonlight and do 1 weekend a month, or maybe a couple weekends a month. I think I'd be very happy with that.
No, I appreciate you being honest about that answer. And that's a great segue now to my next question, which is, where do you see yourself? Where do you see Rubicon? Well, actually, no, let's go back. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
So I will probably be running another company, to be honest. Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
So I have a few ideas, and
we won't steal your ideas. You make us all sign a non-disclosure agreement.
No, that's fine. That's fine. But again, one thing that I'm very passionate about is about the our vocation as medicine. I take it very, very seriously. My father was a physician before me, and so am I. And I hate to watch physicians be less respected than they used to. I don't want this profession. It's a very noble profession. It's a very unique profession when you create phenomenal links and relationships with peers and colleagues and with patients. There's no other profession out there that's like medicine. And I would hate for it to just get automated or for it to become just another administrative role. And so I fight. I fight very hard to maybe become an inspiration for other people to go out there and build their own careers as physician entrepreneurs. I really think that it's the future of medicine. Is we need to find those physicians who are capable of building something that has a greater impact and doing it at scale. And so it's I in the next 5-10 years, I really want to push this from a societal standpoint, from a community standpoint, but also for myself to. And again, it goes back to my initial mission is, you're only as important as the impact you have in others. And so
absolutely,
I want to make sure that I'm just a catalyst to people like you and your peers who are a tad younger to be able to go out there and feel confident to build your own companies.
Sign me up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sign me up. I'm already down, man.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting towards the end of the interview, and I want to hit you off with some quick, fast questions.
Sure.
And whatever comes off the top of your mind, feel free to answer them. So the first one is, what's one thing you want physicians to get from this podcast?
I'd like them to feel more confident that one, they're more creative than society lets them to be. And that there are many opportunities for them to participate in startups.
Okay. So as you know, and you've done a couple of podcasts in the past, or more than a couple of podcasts in the past, in order for the host to kind of get to know you, he's going to have to, or he or she's going to have to do some stalking. So I had to stalk you, and I found out that you are of Vietnamese origin. Is that true?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So very good. So it looks as though you started or you worked with a Vietnam health clinic.
Yep.
Which was founded by students back at University of Washington.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So the next question, I think I've given you a bunch of softballs. I'm going to give you a tough question. So I want to know, what do you find more rewarding, being the founder of Renault, the founder of Rubicon, or volunteering in Vietnam, practicing medicine in the United States? Basically, it's a clinical versus entrepreneur versus humanitarian type question.
Oh man, that is a tough question, especially because you're asking the most rewarding experience.
Yeah.
It's
like Eminem.
I think it's really about the experience. I'm gonna cheat a little bit and say that I have many answers. One is the one-to-one experience. There's nothing more special and more humbling than having a patient in front of you, telling you everything about their life, their health, their secrets. That's a very, very unique experience, and I would not lose that for the world. And that's why I continue to practice medicine. It's important to me. It may not be as important for some other people, but I know to me it is, and I want to continue having some kind of patient contact. But in terms of rewarding, I think it's fair for people to evolve through their life and through their careers. They can't always like the same food. They can't always like the same experiences. And for me, I think the experience that I'm in right now, what really rocks my boat is entrepreneurship, because I get to learn every day. Whereas I felt like in clinical medicine, I was still learning every day, but not at the same pace. And so I would say that the most rewarding experience for me right now is not necessarily one startup or another, but it's the whole experience of entrepreneurship and learning every day.
Real talk. Now, who's someone that you admire?
That's another tough question. I've never really admired anyone. I have people that truly inspire me. but to the point of
how about that one?
Yeah.
How about that one?
Yes.
Who inspires you?
So my meditation kind of mentor, guru, I say. I was very lucky. I mean, meditation these days and mindfulness is like a super hot, trendy thing, right? Yeah,
absolutely.
So
absolutely.
I was lucky. I started doing that literally like 25 years ago. When I was a kid, my parents dragged me against my will to this Buddhist meditation camp for the summer. It was just like a fun camp with a bunch of other kids and a bunch of other Vietnamese families. And for them, it was more a way to reintroduce me to my Vietnamese culture, something I was very much against when I was young, which is not the case now. But out of that really blossomed this like interest for meditation and mindfulness. And it really was somewhat of a foundation of the person that I am. And the person that inspired me the most was my meditation mentor, Thich Nhat Hanh, who's a Vietnamese Buddhist monk. So I went to his Buddhist camp called Plum Village in the southwest of France, and I've gone back multiple times. And his words and his writing really have influenced me over the years.
I think just like what you said about meditation being a really hot topic. I mean, it's extremely helpful from, what I've seen, and I've started to practice it. Mm-hmm. I mean, and although, I've just recently started practicing it and I'm not on the level as you, I find it to be extremely helpful. Yeah. And in what we do, which is extremely stressful, I think it could be something that other physicians can do, particularly those who are in very stressful specialties. Yeah. Can you describe or can you explain just a little bit about your rituals without, giving us too much personal stuff, but just, something that you can impart on the audience, some meditation rituals that you do that helps you get through today?
Yeah. So there are two types of things that I do. So one is the meditation in group. I think it's important to be part of what's called the Sangha, which is a meditation community. And it doesn't have to be a huge group. The Sangha that I go to once a week maybe has 8 to 10 people who attend, not even regularly, but they attend. It's nice to be able to be around these people. So for some reason, there's a different kind of energy there. Knowing that other people are doing certain things. And then we also talk and you hear about other people's struggles and concerns, and it helps alleviate your own concerns to see that other people have their own problems as well. So that's one thing. The other thing that is a little bit more personal is my own meditation practice. And it's not it's something that you really need to spend 10, 15 minutes on regularly. Some people do it daily. Some people do it a few times a week. But it's simple. You put yourself in a quiet environment. I like to face a wall and get in a position that's comfortable. And you don't have to be seated with your with your feet under yourself. It gets pretty painful. I mean, you can sit on a chair. You can lie down. You can do whatever you want. You can be on a couch. And then you recenter yourself. You start focusing on the expansion of your abdomen as you breathe. And then slowly you really hear your own breathing. And then the one part that's a little bit challenging for people who are beginning is they get concerned about the thoughts that cross their mind. And it's a very natural thing to do. You will always have thoughts. It's very rare to get to a point where you don't think about anything anymore.
You're talking about me. That's me.
Yeah.
That's
and so then they start focusing on those thoughts and try to find ways to chase those thoughts. But you should just let it be, and just kind of continue to focus on your stomach and on your breathing. And eventually the thoughts just kind of go away. And you will think of something else. And as you practice, and it's like everything, right? It requires practice. As you practice, you just become more comfortable with that. You're able to center yourself and feel more calm. And I think to me, what this brings me the most when I do it on a more regular basis is clarity of my mind. I come out of these sessions or multiple sessions, and I just feel my mind is so much clearer. The things that used to concern me are just so much less important now. And with a clear mind, it fights burnout. It fights stress. You just feel better.
Yeah. That's amazing. Thank you very much for sharing that. Yeah. That you truly are a doc outside the box. Seriously. Yeah. Now, our last question. This is a statement that I present to all of my guests. It's a hashtag that I want you to complete. Started off on Twitter and got some virality to it, and I decided to add it as the last part of the podcast. And it starts, "I'm not just a doc. I'm a," and then I ask my guests to finish it. So I present that question to you, Dr. Pham. I'm not just a doc. I'm a
architect.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Profound. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much. Now, when I end my shows, I always acknowledge my guests. And I got this idea from Lewis Howes. Are you familiar with him?
No.
He's a podcaster, author. He was a former athlete, and he got hurt in the semi-pro football leagues. And from there, kind of just worked himself, pulled himself up by the bootstraps and started, really making a name for himself in LinkedIn, and then eventually started interviewing very famous people on their daily rituals on his podcast, and then eventually wrote a book. But at the end of his podcast, what he does is he acknowledges his guests for the things that they've accomplished. And I find it to be very profound. And the reason why I do that on my show is I think one thing that's lacking in medicine is just appreciation, not just for self and what we do for our patients on a daily basis, but just an appreciation for our coworkers and our colleagues. We every time we go, through the hospital or go through a daily schedule, it just seems like we're always berating each other, whether it's through an M&M, whether it's through, daily consultation. So for me, this is a way of just paying it forward.
Yep.
And I want to just take the opportunity just to acknowledge you for being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Great.
You mentioned the impact of disruptive thinking and technology in the practice of medicine. And I want to acknowledge you for embracing that in a time when we know that, and you mentioned this earlier in the show, that dogma still is holding back medicine in many ways. And I also want to congratulate you. I know you and your company, Rubicon, released the information today, but I wanted to congratulate you all in securing tons of money for further development and research for your company. So
thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pham. Congratulations. You truly are a doc outside the box. And thank you very much for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It was a pleasure.
And that's a wrap. Another episode is officially over here on Docs Outside the Box. You can't say I don't give the people what they want. I even gave you meditation now on the episode. So tell me what you think about that. I'd like to get your feedback. Remember, you can always reach me at Twitter or on Twitter at DocsOTB, as well as through Facebook, or even through my email at docsotb@gmail.com. So please listen, if you are finding value in these podcasts, remember to please subscribe, please share. Remember, I'm on iTunes, I'm on Google Play, I'm on Stitcher Radio, and the comments, the feedback, whether it's good, whether it's bad, listen to me. It's really appreciated, especially the comments on iTunes, because the comments and the reviews helps me move up the news and noteworthy list, and it helps the podcast to grow further. And as a matter of fact, I am going to read some of the comments either on iTunes or through the website. So give me a second. I'm going to bring it up. So one comment on iTunes is from Dr. Pierre. And he says, as a newly minted physician, this podcast is really refreshing to see that we don't all have to follow the quote unquote traditional route. I am a new listener, but I'm going back to listen to all of them. Thank you. And I think Dr. Pierre hit me up on Twitter also saying that he was getting rid of his whole life cash value plan. So way to go, Dr. Pierre. Also, another iTunes review is from Dr. Chris. He says, Dr. Darko has had some excellent interviews on his podcast. All of his information is extremely important. This is the information we should all be learning in medical school as well as residency. Thank you, Dr. Darko, for all your hard work and dedication to the field of medicine. Hey, Dr. Chris, I do what I do. No, but for real, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. This is a labor of love, so I'm glad that you're finding value in this podcast. And then another one from Shireen. She left a message on the website and says, this podcast was great and affirmed that I am in the right track. I wish someone informed me about money when I started medical school. It took me until fellowship to figure it out. Hey, it's never too late. I'm glad you found this podcast. I'm glad it's helping you. I'm glad you're finding value. So please go out and share with others. So that's about it, guys. Hey, listen, and I know some people out there are thinking that I'm only going to read, really good comments or really good feedback. Trust me, I'm really serious about it. Bad feedback, good feedback, all of it is equal in my eyes. It really helps the show to grow. So if you have something that is some constructive feedback to send my way, I'll be happy to take a look at it. I'll be happy to reassess, and you never know, I may read it. So look, this show is already getting long enough. Let's end this show. But always remember, everyone, to live outside the box.